Hello, and welcome to the ITIL V3 Managing Professional Transition class. My name is Dr. Suzanne Van Hove, and we and my colleague, Doug Tedder, we will be taking you through this course. I'm really looking forward to this. I've worked with Doug now a couple of years in doing these videos, and we have a good time. So buckle in and let's get busy on this one. We have some things we need to do first. So as this is a recording, we have to take care of some copyrights. So apologies why I read these things, because they have to be said word for word. So bear with me. ITIL is a registered trademark of AXELOS Limited, used under permission of AXELOS Limited, all rights reserved. IT Infrastructure Library is a registered trademark of AXELOS Limited, used under permission of AXELOS Limited, all rights reserved. The swirl logo is a trademark of AXELOS Limited, used under permission of AXELOS Limited, all rights reserved. And lastly, all other copyrights are property of their respective owners. My apologies, one more. All text is from the final draft of the ITIL IV volumes CDS, DSV, HVIT, and DPI. By the end of the course, you'll know those acronyms forward and backwards. Copyright AXELOS Limited 2019 and 2020, used under permission of AXELOS Limited, all rights reserved. Material is reproduced under license from AXELOS Limited. Phew, now we're done with that, thank goodness. So let's go ahead and jump in and let's talk about what we're going to be doing during this course. So the agenda, it's fairly straightforward. We need to review some of the foundation concepts. If you've taken the ITIL IV Foundation, you're ahead of the game. There are 5 different concepts, I guess I'm going to say, that are crucial to ITIL IV, and they're covered in some detail in the ITIL IV Foundation. But don't fear if you haven't taken it, we're going to be talking about them here. But you need to get those concepts under your belt before you go into the managing professional texts, because they always refer back to them. And then we're going to be talking about elements within direct, plan, and improve, create, deliver, and support, drive stakeholder value, high velocity IT, and then we'll talk a little bit about the exam. Now, those 4 volumes, direct, plan, and improve, create, deliver, and support, drive stakeholder value, and high value IT, if you're looking at the syllabus, you're going to see that direct, plan, and improve is kind of off towards the end. We made an executive decision to make the course materials make sense, is that we brought it to the front. Direct, plan, and improve is shared between the managing professional and the leadership certification. So we put it at the front because that makes sense that way. It's the elements within the service value system that should be addressed first. So we'll get more into that later. But that's the agenda. One other thing. If you have the syllabus, I would strongly recommend that you follow along in the syllabus as we go through this. And secondly, you make note of the elements that we're talking about. Doug is going to talk some more about the content within each of the areas, but you really need to pay attention, and you're going to have to be an active learner. Look at the syllabus, study the information on the slides, use the volumes, because there's a lot of material. And it's, for a lot of the times, you know, Doug, when we were looking at it, we're like, oh, this is Old Home Week. You know, we understood that. We could point to things in the 2011 version of ITIL or ITIL III, whatever way you want to call it. But then on other times it says, oh, Old Home Week again, because this is how we consult. But there's other places that you really need to pay attention. So do be an active learner here and take accountability for what you're learning. All right, so now's the fun time where we get to introduce ourselves. So it is my pleasure to introduce Doug Tedder and work with him again on delivering an ITIL class. If those of you were fortunate enough to see our executive class, we had a lot of fun doing that. So I figured we needed to duplicate it here. So Doug.
When I introduced myself on the last course, I talked about my boxer, Izzy. Izzy is kind of the supervisor of Tedder Consulting and keeps me in line and makes sure that I do the things that I need to do. She's a lot of fun, and so we try to introduce a little bit of our personalities as we get into the course, and so I'd like to introduce you to Izzy, and that's who you see there on the screen.
Perfect. And I've changed my photo for this, or I've changed the graphic. The last couple of years, I could be, where's Waldo? It seems that I have been around the globe multiple times. I've been very fortunate to work in international standards, which has taken me to some amazing places. And as convener of SC40WG2, which is the work group that owns the ISO IEC 20000 family, so the service management system, I've been meeting some wonderful people and then walking around the globe knowing or learning new cultures. And quite frankly, Verism has done that for both of us as well. So both of us, in that light, we've been able to go out and I'm going to say preach to the choir about expanding the scope of service management. And I think you see that here in ITIL 4. So I'm using the globe, and next time, who knows what it'll be. It used to be opera. Now I don't have time for opera anymore, it seems like. So looking forward to going through this. And Doug, why don't you talk about this certification?
Right. Well, thanks. The certification with Managing Professional Transition, you see this graphic here. The thing to remember about this particular certification, there is no distinct written volume around managing professional transition. It is really a culmination or taking the parts of create, deliver, support, derive stakeholder value, high value IT, and direct, plan, and improve, taking various aspects of those 4 volumes and pulling them together with a little dash, if you will, of ITIL Foundation, the ITIL 4 version of Foundation, to pull together this course. It's the thing to keep in mind around this. The certification scheme, as you see there, there are 2 main tracks, if you will. We have the Managing Professional, which we're going to take you through in this course. You also see the Strategic Leader course, and you'll notice, as Suzanne kind of referred to just a minute ago, that this Direct, Plan, and Improve module is shared between the 2 curriculum, if you will. Both based on ITIL Foundation, both taking parts of ITIL Foundation as well as these other volumes. So that's what you're going to see with Managing Professional Transition. When you get through this, you'll have that certification associated with your name. We're going to get you all the information that you need in order to get started on it. Okay. So as you start to dig into this a little bit, one thing we want to kind of point out, each of these 4 books will make up the Managing Professional Transition curriculum, if you will. Within each of the books, as you might imagine, there's going to be some examinable and non-examinable material or collateral. As you look at the examinable material, you'll refer to the syllabus. And that's the guide as you get ready to take the exam. One thing we want to point out, as part of these publications and as part of these this particular course, we're going to touch on practices, but we're not going to say a whole lot about the practices in managing professional transition. Those things are going to be separate volumes in and of themselves.
Yeah, they may not have had the foundation, Doug, so
True.
They may not know what these practices are about. So can you explain that really quick for them?
Yeah, one of the things that ITIL 4 introduces is this notion of practices. There are 34 practices in the ITIL 4 scheme. And one of the first questions I want to blow up immediately is this idea of practices the same as processes.
Yeah.
The answer is no. Whereas in previous versions of ITIL, we had certain distinguishable processes. Don't make the mistake or don't fall into the trap of thinking that the practices are automatically just processes. Processes are part of what we deliver or part of what we use in order to deliver the outcomes needed by each of the practices. But don't fall into that trap that practices and processes are the same thing. Practices really broaden the scope, if you will.
Yep.
And one of the things around ITIL 4 that I particularly like is that previous versions of ITIL may have left you with the impression that it's all about processes.
Right.
It's not about that. It's really about these things that you need to do to deliver the outcomes that your organization is expecting from you. So the practices help us get to that.
Yep.
And as you see on the right side of the diagram there, that you'll notice there's different depths of discussion around each of the practices within the publication. So we're going to strongly encourage you, and you're going to hear us say this a few times over the course of the course, go read the books.
Yeah.
Please go read the books. So you're not going to hear much about the practices in the Managing Professional Transition.
And one last point before we move on, because we're going to be giving away our lectures in a minute, is that the practices are published separately.
Yes.
They're not included in those 4 managing professional volumes. So they will be published separately, and so they may refer to them at a very high level, but the depth and the detail will be in a separate publication. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So if we go into the details again, what we're going to cover in Managing Professional Transition, again, we're going to talk about the 4 volumes. We're going to go into some depth on each of those 4 volumes. Mm-hmm. We're going to give you a little refresher, or if you've sat the ITIL V3 Foundation. If you've not, never fear, we're going to take you through the basic things that you need to know in order to successfully pass the exam associated with the Managing Professional Transition. So what are the requirements for passing the exam or even going through this course? Well, the target audience is practitioners who have had significant experience with IT service management. If we look at the ITIL certification scheme, if you look at the V3 scheme, the requirement to sit into this course is that you have 17 points. So we're not going to take you through the ITIL V3 certification scheme, but just know that if you have achieved the ITIL Expert, or you have the equivalent 17 points under the old scheme, you can take this course, and you're going to recognize some things, as Suzanne mentioned earlier. The old home week. You're going to recognize some things. The course itself is a 5-day course, including the exam. A lot of it, for many of you that have been doing service management for some time, is going to be review. Yeah, there's a few new concepts, a few new twists on some of the things that we used to talk about.
The terminology is what it got me. It's the new terms, and so pay attention to those.
Yeah, there's a new twist that you're going to see in some of this, and we'll talk about that. But once you pass your exam, and of course after finishing the course you will be enabled to pass your exam, you too will have the Managing Professional designation, and that's yours to keep. So again, where did this material come from if there is no separate volume for the Managing Professional Transition? Well, the material for Managing Professional Transition is drawn from each of the 4 books, as well as the ITIL Foundation book. And the authors took about 30 to 40% of the content from each of these books. Now, immediately the math is not going to add up, so we're going to look at about 30% of, for example, Foundation. We're going to look at about 30% of CDS, high volume IT, et cetera, to actually get to the material that we're going to cover over the course of this course.
Okay.
The thing to remember about the Managing Professional Transition is that while you will have the MP designation, you won't have all of the details that you would have had you come through each of the individual modules, if you will. So we strongly recommend that you read each of those 4 volumes to get the depth and breadth that you would get with the Managing Professional. Again, this is intended for folks that have come through the old ITIL V3 scheme. And we're not going to get all the depth that you would get had you come through the ITIL IV scheme as is currently defined.
We need to talk about the books.
Yes, let's do.
We keep saying you need to read the books, and quite frankly, you need to read the books. But you might also be saying, if you're taking this class very quickly after we've recorded it, and saying, well, where are the books? Doug and I were just at Service Management World in Orlando last week, and we were talking to AXELOS. And like everybody else, I think, on the planet, was expecting these books to be out by now, or relatively close to now, mid-November, late November at the latest, 2019. And in talking to AXELOS, they were saying, well, it could be early 2020. So there's kind of a disconnect here. The exams are available, the material is available. We keep telling you to read the material, and you're going, well, how can I possibly do that if the books aren't there? So there is an out, so to speak. I have learned that if you are an AXELOS partner, you actually have access to the draft copies of these 4 volumes, and actually the foundation volume, but you can certainly go out and purchase that yourself. So if you're not an AXELOS partner, I'm not saying go be one. I would never say that, but what I would do is, if you're taking the class now and you've studied what we have and what we're telling you within the slide deck and in the course of the course, do you have enough information to pass the exam? And in my opinion, it is yes. If you've studied and you're using your good service management knowledge and skills, right? Secondly, I would be watching the AXELOS and the TSO site, the stationary office out of Britain, who will be publishing these books. I'd be watching them and see when they start putting up closer and closer dates, because they might have these out before the beginning of next year. So do be aware, okay? And you've got the last piece there, I think.
So the best guide, I guess, that we can give you is pay close attention to the syllabus. Like Suzanne said, everything that you need to know to pass the exam, we will be talking about over this course. But do pay close attention to the syllabus. Again, we're not going to talk about a whole lot about the practices. We're going to be focused primarily on the new areas that are being introduced in ITIL 4. Personally, I'm excited about a lot of the material that ITIL 4 is bringing into the into service management from a new ideal perspective as compared to previous versions of ITIL. But if you want that detail, again, you're going to have to read that on your own time when those books are available from our friends at AXELOS.
And so one more time, we have the scope of this transition class.
Yeah, here's the scope. Again, we're going to only talk about 30 to 40% of each of these 5 books. And let's just talk about those at a very high level, if you will. In Create, Deliver, and Support, we're going to introduce the concept of value streams. If you are familiar with Lean or other technology or other methodologies, value streams is nothing new to you. But ITIL has focused or has an exclusive focus on value streams, which I think is a good thing that ITIL is doing that. We're going to talk about in Deliver Stakeholder Value, we're going to talk about the concept of the customer journey. Sounds good. There's a lot of collateral out there today. You can read on social and other areas and outlets around the journey. I've always thought about the customer journey as the outside in. It's the way we've kind of talked about it for a number of years now. When you look at the high velocity IT, this is where a lot of the new material is. And high velocity IT talks about the implications of the digital enterprise. And I'm really excited about what's being talked about in HVIT. And then last but not least, Deliver, Plan, and Improve. Direct, Plan, and Improve. Yep. Focuses on the Plan and Improve phases of the service value system, if you will, and talks about governance, risk, and compliance. Some things don't change with the new version of ITIL, so we have to continue to think about things in terms of what's the strategy of the organization, how do we enact those strategies through plans, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so there you have the scope of the course. So let's talk just really briefly about the exam. Same exam as you've seen in the past, 40 questions, closed book. You need to get 70%, so 28 out of the 40 or above to pass. Again, 90 minutes to complete it. Doug and I both have gone through this exam, and 90 minutes is very generous. We'll just put it that way.
Plenty of time.
Plenty of time. Non-native language, of course, they're giving you 25% more, which gives you a kind of an odd number, but you get 113 minutes, so yippee. In the syllabus, they actually give you a question distribution, and I've replicated that on the slide. And all of the questions are at Bloom's level 2 and 3, which is above knowledge, but understanding and a little bit of application. So the questions are not overwhelmingly case study oriented or multitude of answers that could be going into a certain scenario. There's definitely just one right answer. So you have 6 questions at the foundation level. In CDS there's 8, in DSV there's 9, HVIT there's 9, and DPI there's 8. And they just scatter them throughout. There is one sample exam, and we'll be talking about how to use that sample exam as we go through. And then lastly, the materials that will support this class. So in the student material section of the website, you will find all of the materials that will support this. Again, we strongly advise that you have the publications. They're listed for you there. We're not going to keep repeating that, but we'll tell you to read the publications. And in the student guide area, you'll of course have a copy of the slides, the exercises that we're going to be using throughout, the glossary, and then also the sample exam papers. And then I would strongly encourage you to download that syllabus and make sure that you understand it completely. What we've done in the slides is given you section numbers so that you can go from the slide to a specific section within the volumes when you do get them, and that should give you more information than what we may talk about from that section. So make sure you know where that area is on the website, and when you're back, we'll start the foundation material.